Ethan Cole woke with a sharp jolt. His head throbbed, and his body felt heavy. He tried to move, but thick restraints held his wrists and ankles. Panic rose in his chest. He looked around. The room was strange. Smooth metallic walls reflected a bright white light. Strange machines hummed softly, and small drones hovered in the air, scanning him with blue beams. Where am I?" Ethan whispered, but no one answered. He tried to recall what had happened. He remembered the desert research station where he worked. The night was clear, the sky full of stars. Then, a sudden bright light had surrounded him. He remembered being lifted into the air. After that, nothing. Two tall figures appeared at the far side of the room. Their skin was pale gray, and their eyes were dark and almond-shaped. They wore suits that looked grown from living tissue rather than made from metal. Their movements were smooth, almost too perfect. Ethan could not understand their language. Just strange musical sounds that echoed softly. Then a device near Ethan's head hummed, and suddenly he could understand them. Their voices were calm, strange, and precise. "Subject is awake. Begin evaluation," one said. Ethan tried to speak. "Wait. Who are you? What do you want from me?" They ignored him. One of them, the taller one, approached with a thin tool that glowed at the tip. Ethan flinched. The alien pressed it against his arm. Pain shot through his body like fire. He screamed, trying to pull free, but the restraints only tightened. "You are resilient. Human nervous system is remarkable," the alien said in a calm voice. "Continue with testing." Ethan struggled. He had no idea why they were doing this, but fear and anger filled him. He shouted, "Stop. Please. I'm not a toy." Suddenly, the door slid open with a hiss. A new figure entered. Ethan's eyes widened. She looked different from the others. She was younger, with silver markings on her skin that glowed faintly. A small crown of light hovered above her head. She walked with grace, but there was strength in her posture. Two armored guards followed her silently. The alien who had been testing Ethan stepped back slightly. "Princess Lyria," he said with respect. The princess studied Ethan. Her eyes softened slightly when she saw the fear in his gaze. The tool hovered near his arm again. Ethan cried out, biting his lip against the pain. Princess Lyria's chest tightened. She had been told humans were dangerous, meant for study. They were not her people. They were strange creatures, weak and fragile. Yet seeing this human in pain stirred something inside her. "No!" she shouted. Her voice rang through the room like a sharp bell. "Stop harming the human. He belongs to me now." The room froze. Even the hovering drones paused. The guards stiffened. The scientist who had been conducting the tests frowned. His authority challenged. "You cannot claim a specimen, Princess. He is a research subject," the scientist protested. "I do claim him," Lyria replied firmly. Her wrist glowed as she activated a royal symbol. The restraints around Ethan loosened. "No one will hurt him again. You will obey my command." The scientist hesitated, then backed away. The drones moved to the side, as if respecting her authority. Ethan blinked in disbelief. The pain in his arm dulled slightly. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Princess Lyria approached him carefully. She did not touch him, only motioned for the guards to step aside. Her gaze was intense, but not threatening. "You are safe now," she said softly. "No one here will harm you while I am near." Ethan's chest heaved. He wanted to say something, but words failed him. Finally, he managed, "Thank you, Princess." She tilted her head slightly, curious at the word. Humans spoke simply, but their words carried weight. She nodded once. The guards stepped forward and began moving Ethan to another part of the ship. He was weak and dizzy, but he noticed the difference. No one tried to hurt him. The corridors were sleek and smooth, lined with alien symbols that glowed softly. He wondered where he was going. In the new room, Ethan was placed on a soft bed. For the first time, he felt safe enough to examine himself. His arms and legs were bruised. A sharp cut ran along his side. The restraints were gone, replaced by gentle, glowing bands that seemed to soothe the pain. Princess Lyria entered the room. This time, there were no guards. A floating orb hovered near her, translating her words into his language. "Do not be afraid," she said. "I will not let anyone hurt you." Ethan studied her face. There was strength there, but also something he could not name. Why did you stop them?" he asked, his voice weak. She paused, choosing her words carefully. "You reminded me of stories from my people long ago. Before we built our empire, we were weak. We were hunted. Seeing you, I could not allow them to harm you." Ethan blinked. I don't know what to say." "Say nothing," she replied. "Just survive. That is enough." Days passed. Ethan rested in the room, eating food adapted for him by the ship's system. Princess Lyria visited often. They spoke through the translator orb. She asked about his world, his life, his fears. Ethan told her about simple things: his family, his work, the desert nights, the wind that carried dust across the empty land. She listened, fascinated. One day, the ship shook violently. Alarms blared. Lights flickered. Ethan slipped off the bed, but instinctively pushed forward to shield Lyria from a falling panel. Pain shot through his back, but he stayed between her and danger. She stared at him in shock. "Why did you do that?" she asked, her voice trembling. Ethan grimaced. "You saved me. I couldn't let you get hurt." Her heart twisted. These humans were strange creatures. They were small, fragile, yet they could be fearless. Lyria realized that this human's courage was real. It was raw. It was unlike anything she had seen among her own people. Later, she scanned him with a small device. The results amazed her. Strong bones, high pain tolerance, quick reflexes. Humans had survived impossible things. She began to read more about Earth and its history: wars, famine, disasters. Humans always rose again, always survived. The bond between them grew. Ethan told stories of camping under the stars, of school, of family dinners. Lyria shared her own feelings: the loneliness of being a princess, the weight of duty. She laughed at his jokes, and for the first time, she felt warmth in a life filled with order and rules. Outside the room, the scientist Draylen and other leaders murmured in anger. The princess was wasting a valuable subject. Worse, she was learning human emotions. They began plotting quietly, trying to find a way to take Ethan from her protection. One evening, Lyria stood at the window, watching the stars. Ethan joined her, weak but steady. "Will they hurt me again?" he asked softly. "No," she said. "I promise. No one will ever hurt you while I am here." Ethan nodded. He did not fully trust her words, but he felt the sincerity behind them. I will do what I can to help you," he said. She looked at him, surprised at his determination. Humans, she realized, were more than fragile creatures. They were stubborn, brave, and unyielding. The ship sailed silently through space, carrying both captors and a human who refused to be just a specimen. Princess Lyria had claimed him, and the scientist Draylen had been warned. A new chapter was beginning. The human was alive. The princess had chosen him, and something strange and powerful had started something that would change them both. As Ethan rested that night, Looking at the stars outside the window, he did not know what the future held. He did not know what battles awaited him, or what dangers lurked in the cold depths of space. But he knew one thing clearly. Someone was standing by him now. Someone powerful. Someone willing to fight for his life. And for the first time since the bright light in the desert, Ethan felt a small spark of hope. The next morning, Ethan woke slowly. His body still ached from the pain of the tests, and the bruise across his back throbbed. The glowing bandages on his arms and side eased the worst of the pain. But he moved carefully. The room was quiet. Except for the soft hum of the ship, he did not have to wait long. The door slid open, and Princess Lyria entered. This time, there were no guards following her. The floating translator orb hovered near her, glowing softly. "Good morning," she said, her voice calm but firm. "How are you feeling?" "Better, I think," Ethan replied. "Still sore, but alive." He tried to smile. "Thanks to you." Lyria tilted her head. "You do not need to thank me," she said. "You are under my protection. It is my duty." Ethan looked at her, curious. Duty, or something else? Lyria paused. She had been trained all her life to hide her feelings. Yet, something about this human stirred emotions she did not fully understand. "Perhaps both," she said carefully. "You remind me that life is not only about power or control. Sometimes it is about choice and courage." Ethan blinked. "Courage?" he asked. She nodded. "Humans, I see now that you are brave in ways my people do not expect. You act even when you are afraid. You fight for others, not just for yourself." Ethan shrugged. "We have to. That is what we do. We do not always win, but we try. We do not give up easily." Lyria considered his words. They were simple, yet they carried a weight that her people often lacked. She had grown up in a world where power and order mattered more than loyalty or mercy. Yet this human's words resonated with something inside her. Over the next few days, Lyria visited Ethan often. They spoke about many things: his home on Earth, his family, the life he had before the bright light took him, and her life as a princess, bound by rules and expectations. Ethan found her fascinating. She was kind, but strong. She could command a room with a word, yet she laughed at his stories of camping trips and small human jokes. He had never met anyone like her. One day, as Lyria was explaining her people's culture, a sudden jolt shook the ship. Lights flickered, alarms blared, and the floor tilted sharply. Ethan stumbled, but he caught himself and pushed forward instinctively. A panel above Lyria's head began to fall. Without thinking, he grabbed it and shoved her aside. Pain shot through his back and arms, but he stayed between her and the falling metal. Lyria froze, staring at him. "Why did you do that?" she asked, her voice trembling with surprise and relief. Ethan winced as he pushed the panel away. "You saved me first. I couldn't let you get hurt." Her chest tightened. Humans. They were strange creatures. Fragile, yet willing to risk everything to protect someone else. This one human had already shown her courage, loyalty, and strength. Lyria realized that Ethan was unlike any human she had studied before. After the ship settled, she scanned him with a small device. She was curious about his body. The readings surprised her. Ethan had strong bones, quick reflexes, and a high tolerance for pain. His muscles could handle stress far better than most of her people had expected from a species considered weak. That evening, as they sat together by the viewing window, Ethan asked, "Do you think my people are like me?" Lyria shook her head. "Humans are unpredictable. Some are brave, some are not. But I see now that even those who seem weak can survive. You endure, adapt, and continue." That is rare. Ethan smiled faintly. That is all we can do. Keep trying. Keep surviving. We fight, even when the odds are against us. Lyria studied him. She had begun to understand something important. Humans, though fragile, had a spirit that her empire often underestimated. That spirit was dangerous, but also remarkable. The next day, while Ethan rested in the chamber, Lyria received a report from Dralin. The scientist's voice was tense. Princess, the human is showing unusual resilience. He recovers faster than expected. We should continue testing to fully understand his capabilities. Lyria's eyes narrowed. He will not be tested further. He is under my protection. Dralin hesitated. But Your Highness, the Council may question this decision. He is an important specimen. Lyria's voice was firm. I will answer to the Council. Until then, he will not be harmed. That is my order. Ethan, hearing this from the doorway, nodded silently. He could sense the tension in the air. Lyria was powerful, but this was dangerous. Anyone could disobey her, and the consequences could be deadly. A few days later, Lyria invited Ethan to walk with her in a secured part of the ship. The corridor was wide and lined with observation windows. Stars and distant planets stretched endlessly outside. Ethan took slow steps, still weak. It is beautiful, he said, looking out at the galaxy. Lyria smiled faintly. Yes, but beauty does not make this place safe. There are dangers everywhere, even here. Suddenly, the ship trembled again. Alarms rang through the corridor. Ethan stumbled, but held onto the railing. Lyria's eyes widened as the gravity flickered. Stay behind me, Ethan said, steadying himself. I'll protect you. Lyria raised an eyebrow. I am the princess. I should be protecting you. You protected me before, Ethan replied. Now it is my turn. As debris fell from the ceiling, Ethan pushed her aside again, taking the brunt of a heavy panel on his shoulder. Pain shot through him, but he gritted his teeth. Lyria stared in shock, realizing again that humans could endure far more than her people believed. When the shaking stopped, they both stood silently, breathing heavily. Ethan's back was bruised, and his arm ached, but he smiled faintly. See? I'm still alive. Lyria touched his arm lightly. You are extraordinary, she said softly. Your people, they are stronger than I imagined. Days turned into a week. Lyria continued to visit, and Ethan recovered steadily. She asked him to teach her about humans, their culture, their way of thinking, their strength. Ethan laughed at her curiosity. You will see soon enough, he said. Humans are stubborn. You think you control us, but we control ourselves. That is our strength. One evening, as they looked at a distant nebula through the viewing window, Lyria spoke quietly. I have been reading about your world. Earth, your history is full of hardship. Wars, disasters, hunger. Yet humans survive, time and again. Ethan nodded. That is what we do. We survive. Even when it seems impossible, we keep going. Lyria's eyes softened. I underestimated your species. You are not weak. You are resilient, brave, and loyal. He smiled faintly. We try to be. Sometimes we fail, but we never stop trying. The bond between them grew stronger. Ethan trusted her, though cautiously. Lyria felt a growing sense of responsibility. This human had touched her in ways no one else had. His courage and spirit reminded her of her own people's forgotten past, when they were small, fragile, and hunted. But not everyone on the ship was pleased. Dralin and other senior officers whispered in hidden corridors. The princess is wasting a specimen, Dralin muttered. He is dangerous. She should not interfere. Oh, 17. Some young officers began to question the old ways, seeing Lyria's protection of Ethan as a sign that the Empire might need to change. Others were angry, planning secretly to take the human from her care. One evening, Lyria and Ethan sat by the observation window, watching stars pass by. "They will try to take you," she said quietly. Ethan looked at her. "I know, but I will not run." She studied his face, seeing determination and fear mixed together. Humans. They were unpredictable, fragile, yet unyielding. This one human had proven courage in a way that no alien had. For the first time, Lyria realized that humans were more than mere subjects. They could change the balance of power, not through technology or weapons alone, but through will, courage, and loyalty. The ship moved silently through the void, carrying both captors and the human who refused to be broken. Princess Lyria had chosen to protect him. And Ethan, he had begun to understand that he had a purpose beyond mere survival. As they stood together, looking at the stars, a silent understanding passed between them. The galaxy was vast, full of danger, but also full of possibilities. And one small human, stubborn and brave, had already begun to make a difference. The day arrived when Ethan's courage would be tested in a way he had never imagined. Princess Lyria had received word from the council that he would undergo a combat evaluation. Officially, it was to measure human potential. In truth, many feared him and wanted to prove that he was dangerous. Ethan had been told little about the event. The moment he entered the large hall, he understood the scale. The room was enormous. A training arena, surrounded by elevated platforms. Alien officers and council members observed from above, their eyes cold and calculating. "You do not need to fear," Lyria said, standing at the edge of the arena. "I am here. No one will harm you unfairly. Only follow what they ask." M&T. Ethan nodded. His body still ached from recent injuries, but he felt a fire inside. He would not cower. He would not give them the satisfaction of seeing him broken. On the far side of the arena, his opponent appeared. Tall, strong, and clad in energy armor that shimmered with pale light. The alien warrior's presence radiated power. His name, Lyria told Ethan, was Korvac. Korvac was an elite fighter, trained in the Empire's deadliest arts. Ethan was given a light baton and a thin armor vest that barely covered his torso. He looked down at the baton, a simple piece of metal, and then at Korvac's blades and shield. The odds were not in his favor. The judge, a stern alien with gray skin and sharp eyes, called out the start. The arena shifted, and the gravity field adjusted to a standard combat level. Ethan took a deep breath. Korvac charged first, moving faster than Ethan had imagined. The energy blades hummed through the air. Ethan barely blocked the first strike with his baton, feeling the vibration travel up his arms. The force was unlike anything he had trained for. He ducked and rolled, avoiding the next swing. He thought of Lyria, of the humans in cages he had seen, of all the people who relied on courage more than strength. That thought steadied him. Instead of facing Korvac head-on, Ethan began to use his mind. He noticed patterns in the alien's movements. Every strike had a rhythm. Every pause had a hint. Humans, he realized, often relied on ingenuity rather than pure power. He could do the same here. Ethan feinted left, dodged right, and struck at Korvac's knees with the edge of his baton. The alien staggered slightly, surprised. The crowd murmured. Aliens were not used to fighters who moved without rigid training or predictable patterns. Lyria watched, her heart pounding. She wanted to intervene, to stop the fight before it became deadly, but the council would not allow her. She was forced to sit and watch, knowing the human she had saved might be pushed to his limit. Korvac's attacks grew faster, more precise. The alien's blades hummed with lethal energy. Ethan felt a sting as one nicked his arm, cutting through the thin armor. He gritted his teeth and thought quickly. Humans survived by adapting, he reminded himself. He could not afford fear, only focus. He used the arena itself to his advantage. Low walls, gravity shifts, and floating platforms became tools. He ducked under a swing, kicked at a support column, and bounced off it to strike Korvac in the chest. The elite warrior faltered, stunned by the human's unpredictability. Lyria's hands clenched. She could not interfere, but she shouted inwardly, willing Ethan to continue. Humans, she realized, did not fight like her people. They improvised, they thought quickly, and they had endurance that no machine could replicate. Korvac, realizing the human was more dangerous than expected, activated his lethal mode. Energy blades glowed bright, ready to pierce flesh. Ethan saw the change and froze for a heartbeat. If he misstepped, he would die. He remembered what his mother used to say back on Earth. Think before you act, but act with courage. Using a combination of balance, speed, and instinct, Ethan ducked low and rolled under Korvac's swing. He pushed off the floor and smashed his baton against the alien's helmet with all his strength. Sparks flew. Korvac stumbled and fell, momentarily dazed. The crowd erupted in shocked whispers and gasps. No human had ever faced an elite warrior and survived, let alone won. Some aliens cheered in secret. Others were terrified of the human's abilities. Lyria's chest heaved. She had feared for him, but now she saw the raw truth. Humans were not just strong, they were cunning, brave, and determined beyond measure. Korvac struggled to rise. His energy shield was damaged, his movements slower. Ethan, though exhausted and bruised, pressed forward carefully. He did not aim to kill, only to disarm and survive. That was human instinct. Fight, but preserve life when possible. Finally, Korvac collapsed completely. The council erupted in noise. Some were impressed. Some were frightened. Drolin, watching from a platform, clenched his fists. The human had survived. Worse, he had triumphed. Lyria's eyes shone. She stepped forward mentally, cheering Ethan in her own way. He had proven more than strength. He had shown courage, adaptability, and determination. After the fight, Ethan was helped to his feet. His body ached all over. Bruises, cuts, and fatigue weighed heavily on him. Lyria came to his side, kneeling to inspect the worst injuries. "You are remarkable," she said softly. "You could have died, yet you did not. You fought with your mind as much as your body. You are unlike any human I have studied." Ethan smiled faintly, pain lacing his voice. "I did what I had to do. That is what humans do. We survive, even when it seems impossible." The council was not pleased. Some elders argued that humans were too dangerous, that they should be removed, controlled, or even destroyed. Lyria spoke firmly in Ethan's defense, citing his loyalty, bravery, and intelligence. She insisted that he was an ally, not a threat. Back in her chambers later, Ethan sat heavily on a soft bed, exhausted but alive. Lyria applied a healing gel to his cuts and bruises. "You were amazing," she said quietly. "Not just for your fighting, but for your courage, your thinking, your loyalty. You inspire in ways I did not expect." Ethan rubbed his arm and smiled faintly. "I was just doing what humans do. We fight for others. We protect. We survive." Lyria watched him. She had begun to understand something crucial. Humans were fragile, yes, but they had something her people often lacked: spirit, ingenuity, and the will to act, even when survival seemed impossible. Later that night, she accessed a hidden data room. She reviewed ship maps and secret documents about the Empire's plans for other humans. Project Harvest. They called it a plan to capture more humans for study. Her heart tightened. They will not hurt them, she whispered to herself. Not if I can stop it. Ethan, resting in the chamber, did not know the full danger he had escaped. But he sensed that something was changing. The way the aliens treated him, the way the princess spoke of him, all indicated that he had become more than a subject. He was a symbol of something bigger. Courage, loyalty, and the human spirit that refused to be broken. Over the next few days, Ethan recovered and trained quietly. Lyria allowed him to learn about the ship, its systems, and its weapons. He was curious, asking questions about how they worked, imagining ways to use what he learned to protect himself and others. You are learning too quickly, Lyria said one day, her voice half teasing, half concerned. I have to, Ethan replied. If we want to survive, I need to understand this place. I need to help you. Lyria studied him. Humans were strange creatures. They seemed small and weak, but their determination and ability to learn were extraordinary. Ethan's resilience, quick thinking, and courage were exactly the qualities that could change the course of events. One evening, as the stars streaked past the viewing window, Ethan and Lyria stood together. You know, Ethan said quietly, I never thought I would end up here, in space, on a ship with aliens who think we are weak. But you saved me, and I trust you. Lyria's eyes softened. And I trust you. You have proven yourself beyond what my people believed possible. Your courage, your determination, it is extraordinary. Ethan smiled faintly. I guess humans are full of surprises. She laughed softly. Indeed, that is clear. Outside, the ship moved through the stars, carrying both captors and the human who refused to be broken. Princess Lyria had claimed him, and he had proven himself in ways no one expected. The Empire had begun to see a new truth. Humans, though fragile, were cunning, brave, and strong in ways the galaxy had yet to understand. And somewhere deep in the ship, a plan began to form. Lyria knew she could not allow Project Harvest to continue. She had seen the strength of one human, and she understood that the survival and freedom of his kind depended on courage, cleverness, and the stubborn spirit that refused to bow. Ethan, unaware of the full scope, rested and healed, but he had already changed the course of events. He had fought, survived, and proven that humans were more than their captors believed. For the first time, he felt that maybe, just maybe, he was not alone in the galaxy. He had an ally, a powerful one, and together, they might face whatever came next. The stars stretched endlessly before them, full of danger, mystery, and opportunity. And Ethan Cole, human, survivor, fighter, had already begun to make his mark.